YouTube, and welcome back to Cursed Ones, the curriculum, where today we are going to be going over the third part of Cursed Ones 301. Previously, we went over Cursed Ones 201 and 101, and right now we are going through 301, which should be from, this should be after Albuquerque, all the way to... what does 301 go to? I believe that this actually goes into Wolvenshire, so we are going to be going through probably one of the wildest arcs ever. So hold on to your seats, there's going to be an open Q&A afterwards, and if you're watching on YouTube, this was streamed live to YouTube, twitch.tv/LissyLoops, and basically this is all off the cuff. I have not practiced this slideshow, so I don't know what I'm saying. I'm rambling. That's what we're doing. So if things are a bit messy, if I stumble on my words, forgive me. And for those watching on Twitch, this will be uploaded to the YouTube VOD channel. If you don't know what that is, it's Cursed Ones D&D, just in case you ever need a refresher on the lore. So let's jump right in, shall we, to Cursed Ones 301. I've said words in English, that's amazing! So, Cursed Ones 301, of course, by your lovely DM, Dean. Let's do a quick recap on the characters since we last saw them with their new fancy updated artwork, starting, of course, with Sakara. So, they're the Tiefling Swarm Ranger, with now featuring a friend, as you can see in their artwork. They're starting to soften up their disposition here and there, and of course we still don't know their curse. The amulet is definitely still sus, and some alignment swapping seems to be happening, but we don't fully know what's happening there. And, hey, what's the deal with those Guild of Ethelar guys that you seem to know a lot about, Sakara? Sakara? Alright, and let's head over to Trial Forsea, looking wonderful there. So, they are the Dragonborn Storm Barbarian, the Tired of Sunder, as they're officially getting way too many, so many problems, so many sleep problems. They have so many levels of exhaustion, always. Please let them rest. Their curse is restless fears. At every moment, they see their worst fear in the corner of their eye. And because of this, they can't sleep due to insomnia. Their boyfriend count is currently at 2, and they're also now a dad to Pecan. Their goal is to cure curses. And basically, their whole motto is talk shit, get hit with a 5-ton rocket hammer. And they are, of course, the 2-time drinking competition champion. Next up, we have Lily Lenovel. Oh yeah, baby. They are the Vampire Elf 4 Elements Monk. Kind of like Lego Ninjago. Oh my gosh, this is such a mouthful. Now they have braids in their hair because braids mean special things, as we have discussed last time. Words are hard, guys. Their curse is still a mystery and will always be. And now there are foxes following her places. She has a new fancy fox tattoo to boot. And she is the only person who says lore-accurate swearing phrases, her most iconic being, "By my lady." At this point, with how much we say it, Jesus Christ should just be canon. Benny Jets. Let's go. They are the Azmar, Wild Magic Sorcerer, and Battlemaster Fighter. This is starting to get wild with the subclasses. And here we see the beginning of the silver foxification of Benny. Their curse is Blood Moon Beast. During Blood Moons, Benny transforms into an uncontrolled beast hell-bent on killing anything with strong magical readings, which is a physical curse. And it's by now that we're starting to realize, okay, maybe Benny did fuck a god. Why do you know so many giant horrible creatures, Benny, and why do they know you personally? Benny? And we have Cornelius tagging along. The Water Genasi Glamour Bard, who is still gay-ass extreme. Oh no, he's hot! This is one of my favorite outfits from the whole series. And he is, of course, the embodiment of the This Is Dragon All-for-One mashup. His curse, which he now has, is the Endless Stage. He now views the entire world as a stage production, and is a horrible theater kid with a mental curse, which is probably one of the scariest curses in the series, if you think about it. And from here on out, get ready for Golden Eyes to become a massive theme. And we have Wilfred White returning once again after his stint as a scarecrow. He is the Aarakocra Lore Bard Paladin, and he's a good Christian boy now with an oath to his mom. He is still, of course, our absolute darling, and his curse is still a Spectral Link. Wilfred is spectrally linked with Marcel Delacroix, a lizard folk who hurt him when he was a kid, and they're both best buddies. Cursed God really jibbed it up and made this, a blessing instead of a curse. The ultimate tag team duo continues with Marcel in tow, and please stop letting him in the front lines, he has so many scars. And Sharpay! Lovely Sharpay, the Fire Genasi Horizon Walker Ranger Phoenix Soul Sorcerer, and the proponent of a sensible Scorching Ray or two. Her Arson and Silver Tongue are equally lethal. Her player is Cece, and her curse is the Reverse Midas's Touch. Any gold turns to silver, silver to copper, copper to dust, you get the gist. She is armed with even more murderous intent and one fiancé. And now that we have gone over our recap of the characters, let's get to our goal check to see what the party have done last, shall we? Alright, Spinaroo. Artifacts obtained! We now have the Sword of Death, the Heart of Life, the Dice of Spontaneum, the Aeonian Rose, and the one I keep forgetting to put on here, the Sickle of Judgment. One mom has been killed, and a few countries have been traveled, that being Yashandale, Eros, Azamir, Sender, and Wolvenshire. They have officially filled out the map. Or a little bit of Wolvenshire, just a little smidge. And they have currently traveled to 2 planes, the Material Plane and the Outlands. The current objective is to cure curses with no side objective at the moment. Until the party get invited to a masquerade. Let's go! So, they are invited to Doncaster, which is Triao's place of residence and place of birth. This is where they grew up. This is where they lived before the events of the story. Doncaster is run by Zafrina Clafias, who is another Dragonborn, and widow to the former king, Nepok. As they come into Doncaster, they are quickly visiting the orphanage, which is where Triao grew up as a kid, where they learn that there is an orphan on the run. They track them down and find Voxen, a small tiefling child, who is just very overstimulated by things and has a curse that makes them see everyone as a monster. Wilfred is also short. If you can't see him, it's because, yeah, he's down at the bottom. He got shrunk by a potion not too long ago, and he is going to be short for, like, the next 4 sessions, so that's something funny to keep an eye out on. And during the masquerade that they go to, Wilfred gets absolutely crunk, everyone has a great time, and a bunch of dwarves start attacking, because turns out, years ago, there was a war between the dwarves and the Dragonborn in Sunder. But these dwarves, whenever the party manages to dispatch of them, they start melting into puddles of red goop. And of course, they steal away Vox and head to a volcano. Not really good with, like, the 10-year-old orphan child. So the party immediately want to go after them. Okay, and that's gonna bring us to the depths. It's dark in here. The party head off to a giant volcanic cave, where they start descending into the depths below. And during their descent, people start acting strange, starting with Hugo, following to Lily, Sharpay, etc. People don't act like themselves, and the party starts seeing these strange red filaments at the back of their legs. Of course, if you guys know D&D, you would know that this is the Ooblex, which is a horrifying creature, an ooze creature, and in this world, it has been controlling the Sundarian leaders for years, and caused one of the wars in Sunder between the dwarves and the Dragonborn. This is also where we learn Triao's history. Triao was a general in the War of Dragonborn and Dwarves, and to end the war, Triao beheaded their own king, which ended the war, but they also watched idly by as someone was falsely imprisoned for Triao's own crime. And as the party descend more and more and more, they realize that a few of their friends, including Sharpay, Lily, Hugo, have been replaced by the Ooblex. Now, the Ooblex was a creature made from the Axe of Justice. It was actually found out to be a corrupted investigator also sent by the conductor. This is where the party learns that only people with certain genetics can wield the artifacts without becoming a corrupted mess like the Ooblex. During the fight with the Ooblex, the party also learned that Vox is a warlock who starts Eldritch blasting the hell out of it as the party start trying to take it down. They manage to save the queen. She's dying of a crystalline disease that the Ooblex put her in, but they manage to free her and start taking her up to the surface, trying to save as many people who were Ooblexed along the way. They also thankfully recover their Ooblexed friends. Lily does lose half her inventory into a fire, which is a real shame. So, once the party gets to the surface after escaping the depths of the cave, Sunder is in a bit of a mess. War breaks out, as in the previous days, things have gone to shit. And Hugo, who was traumatized as he was previously a bystander in the War of the Dwarves and the Dragonborn, because turns out orcs were a middle ground who were severely punished throughout the war. Hugo runs away in pure distress. Cornelius, who in the middle of the party trying to head down to stop the war, just dips. You know, he snaps out of his curse for a moment and decides to head off after Hugo. It's a really cute scene. And you know, he dips before some real chaos happens. But before that, a fraction of the party head off to go meet the Emerald Dragon, who turns out to be Vox's patron. It's a wise old dragon who wishes to test the party before helping it. And this dragon basically has the philosophy of if kids are getting abused in some way, it will appear in their dreams and give them powers. And this lovely wise dragon is poisoned by Sakara and nearly dies. Great. Which then leads, of course, to what we all now know is the beans incident, where Sharpay unleashes about 10 magic beans, summons the Mummy Lord, summons a bunch of treants, summons like 5 bullets, and just wreaks havoc, which is so chaotic that it manages to stop the war. So in the end, chaos reigns, and we can stop wars by causing an even worse threat and having people band together. That is the way that we do things in the Cursed Ones. Also, Wilfred has Panethra! Wait. Rewind. Let's head back over to Cursed Ones 1001, where we first learned about Panethra. And if you recall, with Panethra, we know a couple of things. That being, when someone grows too attached to their curse, they become a beast. We also know jack shit, other than Wilfred has Panethra now, as told by the Emerald Dragon. So, now the party have to search for a cure as they get back onto the road again on the Pangea and find out Wilfred's problem. So the party decides, hey, let's go to Elian for help. Elian knows everything. He's a great dude, and you know what? He's in no place of danger. He's in a place of danger. He sends a distress letter. So that's a problem, especially because they really need him right now. And turns out Elian's been kidnapped. And in his basement, they find May and Owen from season 1. And they grab the kids and start heading off to try and find a safe place where they can then proceed to find Elian, because Elian left a map for May and Owen so that they could find their way and get help. They end up fighting a Remoraz, which is a giant lake creature with flames in its scales. It's kind of like that one Leviathan from Subnautica Below Zero, if you know what I'm talking about. And eventually, they find the city that Elian pointed them to, which is a vampire city. Everyone's a vampire, they live off of fish blood, and it's a very interesting community that the party were told about earlier in the campaign. But it's led by this lovely vampire who has a pet bunny named Snowball who helps lead them towards it. And the party drop off the kids and learn that Elian has been kidnapped by a woman named Hara. Hara is a Kalashtar who went off the deep end when her kids died. A few curse beasts killed them, and now she wants to turn other people into curse beasts in some strange, twisted way of revenge. Something about it just sent her off the deep end once again. She doesn't make a lot of sense, and she just wants to give people Panethra with her bad touch, which is because she is a blood... what are they even called? Why don't even know? Blood hunter! She's a blood hunter! Yeah! And with her bad touch, she kind of, touches Elian with her bad touch, and Elian turns into a cursed beast during an eventful fight with her. Also turns out that Hara has a curse of her own. Whenever she takes a step, she gets a cut on her body. And she takes her own life by stepping onto the ground and slitting her own neck with her curse. Just before she can cure Elian. But, luckily, she has a book on her. Turns out she has a book called Panethra, All You Need to Know, written by someone named Veldrin Volar. Oh yeah, and Wilfred with Panethra, he's starting to look a little strange, so they better read that book and figure out what's going on. So, welcome to Panethra 101, a new offshoot of this whole series. So, Panethra, all you need to know. Here's all the information given by the book, written by Veldrin Volar. Panethra is Curse God's contingency. If you grow to like your curse, you get Panethra to keep you punished, as a curse would. There are 3 types of Panethra. Remember the 3 types of curses? Turns out there's matching types of Panethra, that being Tellurian, Abyssal, and Empyrean. Of course, we have Empyrean, which is the muscular type. It takes 1 day to manifest, and we learn retrospectively that episode 1's monster was a Tellurian cursed beast. They are big, beefy muscle monsters, basically bodybuilders, and horribly messed up with an acidic saliva. Then we have the fish type, the Abyssals. They fuck with your mind and slowly, painfully transform you. You start looking at the sky and entering denial, it messes with your head, and you become a horrible whole creature with a form of wild magic. And the birds. You turn into Big Bird. It's a Big Bird transformation simulator. Yep, aliens just Big Bird now. Woo! And it is here that the party decide that they need to track down the person who wrote this book, because Hara redacted the cure. This brings them to Whistlepig, the last known spot where Veldrin Voller was found. And as the party goes to sleep in the remains of Whistlepig, that was once an abandoned village, they wake up and it's bustling. Hang on, there's robots in my fantasy? Yeah, it turns out that Whistlepig is run on these robots, these Warforged, and is about the first town they've seen in the series where things are automated and done with electricity. And there is a giant anti-magic field around Whistlepig. They're very against magic and only use robots. And, hang on, where's this weird drow going? The party spot him in the distance as he is sneaking around in a very flashy outfit as seen on the left. And they try to follow him but quickly lose him in the crowd as the Festival of Lights begin, where they shoot a giant beam into the sky. And, I mean, what could even happen? What could be wrong with sending a large beacon of a location out into the world of D&D? Something happens. Yeah, that's an ancient red dragon. Probably one of the most well-known monsters in D&D, with a challenge rating of 26. And the party are level 10. And that's bad. But, you know, the party have gone through so much at this point, and maybe just by working together, they die. Yeah. With a massive dragon breath, the fire wipes out the party. TPKs all of them. They all hold their hands together as the flames engulf them. Whistlepig! The party wake up in what was once an abandoned village to see it bustling. They walked into this town called Whistlepig, which was the last known place that Veldrin Voller was alive. And what is once seemingly an abandoned, burnt town, they see it as this bustling village. Hang on, there are robots in my fantasy? Yeah, no, it's a robotic town, probably the first the party have seen that's been automated and filled with automatons, robots, and warforged, with an anti-magic field around it, and they are very against magic, only robots. We've done this slide before. It's a joke, because the party are in a time loop. So, let's introduce us to Veldrin Voller. He is a chronergy wizard stuck in a time loop trying to defeat the ancient red that's attacking the village and to save it. He is the only person in the world who knows the cure for Penethra. He's a level 20 wizard, he's off the shits, and he is the only one that can get them out of here. But as they do manage to get Veldrin and save him from Whistlepig, they kill the dragon after a number of loops, and they find their best way out, and they manage to save Whistlepig. Veldrin tells them that they need to go to the Feywilds to get ingredients for Wilfred's cure, and he is quickly running out of time. So, you know what that means. It's time to head to the Feywilds. Woo! Do a little spin there. So, in the Feywilds, chaos immediately erupts as they step through the portal, because they are instantly attacked by this fearsome creature known as the Bug King, who wraps them all up in a trap the second they step foot into the land. And he's quickly about to do something to them, whether that is dissolve them in acid or force their names out, to which he can steal their entire selves and identity. He's killed. In fact, he's not even important at all, as this person, seen on the left, is Shutu, and she comes out from the shadows and decapitates him with one fell swoop, saying his name and disintegrating him with just sheer fucking vibes alone. And Shutu is the princess of the elves. Yeah, so curiously, there haven't been any elves up to this point in Cursed Ones besides Lily. That's because all of the elves live in the Feywilds, and Shutu gives them challenges to go get the ingredients, because this isn't just going to be like going to a garden. You have to work to get the cure for Panethra. And that includes going through a number of the Feywild's most toughest of tasks. The first one is the Mirror Lake, which is where elves go when they've become of age. You thought Shutu was smaller than pictured? She is. She's very short. Basically, the Mirror Lake is where elves go to when they become of age. And they have a trial on there, but Shu, being young, doesn't know what the trial is. The party quickly learn that mirror doubles of yourself will exit the lake and start fighting. So the party fights off their mirrors and manages to get the first ingredient for Wilfred's cure. From there, they get shrunken down by a little berry, very Alice in Wonderland style, and they have an itty-bitty board game competition with a guy named the Game Master, which thankfully they win, and then they have to fight a giant pigeon. After that, they go underneath the roots of a tree and have to take the sap from a very hallucinogenic plant, which causes the shenanigans you would most likely expect. And you know, things aren't going that bad at this point. Things are going pretty well, actually. They already have 3 of about the 7 ingredients, and things are actually going very, very quickly. They think that they'll be able to have the ingredients before Wilfred even turns into a cursed beast. So, things are bad. Very bad. Because Wilfred's Panethra catches up with him. Turns out, stress accelerates Panethra. Not to mention, turns out that Hara touching Wilfred at some point during the fight also advanced his Panethra. And it catches up with him. Luckily, they do manage to calm his bestial form with just a potion that Veldrin gave the party. But Wilfred can't talk, he can't cast magic, he is a walking, shambling beast. That Cole roleplayed excellently, by the way, I love my players. And unfortunately, things get worse because, according to the book that Veldrin made, cursed beasts are only theorized to survive for a week. So Wilfred's on an even bigger counter than he previously was, and they have to go. So now it's double time to get the ingredients, as they start scrambling place to place to try and find a way to cure Wilfred. First, they head to Spontaneum's casino. Yes, the letter god Spontaneum. They actually meet God there. Like, Spontaneum, they met a letter god. That's just, like, hardly brought up in the series, but they did. And Spontaneum leads them to their next objective. They have to go find Rapina, which is Sharpay's old mentor, which means they have to go into a forest mimic. They think it's a normal forest at first, but it starts corrupting their minds. It eats the silver that the party were previously using as protection to ward off the Feywild's natural chaos that can split your mind in two. And they only have Sharpay's silver coin to guide them through, because Sharpay, she's gone. Turns out the forest mimic, yeah, the forest is alive, and it swallows people whole, and it turns them into dryads. Lily gets swallowed and turned into one during a massive fight with it, but luckily, once the party kill it, they manage to save them. But not before they see a shadow in the woods, one overcast above them, this giant flying beast. It's the prophecy. This is where we're going to start talking about the Pantheon. Previously not mentioned up to this point, but let's give it a rundown. The Pantheon. Basically, there are 3 underlings of Curse God. And they are all represented by the Golden Eye. Told you guys that would be coming back. The first one, the party has encountered already. It led to one of the most brutal scenes in Cursed Ones. Over 200 damage in one attack against Cornelius. The Precipice. It controls abyssal creatures, and is an underwater, unhinged mass of eyes and tendrils. It is the thing that created abyssal curses and rules over them. And, as well, it rules over abyssal Panethra. Next, the Prophecy, which controls Tellurian curses. It's a giant, horrible bird, and it's in the Feywilds. And it's tracking the party. The last member of the Pantheon, we don't know. No one knows the third member of the Pantheon, actually, and it's a memory it's a problem that still persists to this day, you know? No one knows who this guy is. but they're known as the one who lies before your very eyes. Whatever that means. They're the big bad elder gods, way outside of the party's current level range to fight. They only won the precipice fight by scaring it away. They don't even know if these things can be killed. And now one of them knows that the party is in the Feywilds and is tracking them down. So this is bad. Very bad. And the prophecy fucks with the party and things get worse. The prophecy steals away Shutu right in front of their eyes and flies off. And luckily, the party managed to rescue Sharpay's mentor and Sharpay herself from the Mimic Woods. Her name is Rapina. She's a renegade punk goth fae who takes in lost kids, including one named Stick, a satyr kid. And he has created an airship with his own hands, the first airship in all of Ethos. Unfortunately, the prophecy quickly finds it. Get fucked. Yep, the airship goes crashing down minutes after its first run ever. Big L for the engineering part of Cursed Ones. But the party get knocked out. Very quickly, they find themselves stuck in the subconscious, which is a realm of dreams and nightmares. And everyone forgets everything. All of them besides Benny. They start entering these realms of their own memories and trying to piece themselves back together. They're fighting their own worst fears. Lily enters a burning monastery, and she's told there by a childhood friend of hers that her eyes aren't his own and they belong to the red sky. Triao gets their arm cut off by an evil version of Dream Sakara stalking through a version of their childhood house. Sharpay fights the crew, a crew of just like this Albuquerque leaders and captains, and sees all her friends boating away without her. It's pure pandemonium in the subconscious. And it's not being controlled by its normal leader. It's being controlled by the Somnambulist, as pictured on the left. Originally, the party thought that she was just a normal plague doctor follower of the prophecy, because those are his followers, but she unmasked and revealed herself to be a 12-year-old Azamar, or like 1200 or so, but 12 in looks alone. And quickly, the party managed to take her out and get through the prophecy's large winding dungeon, which is a large massive bathhouse that many demons and dark creatures get their relaxation on in. They reach the top, and they have a dinner with the prophecy itself. It's a very tense scene, and a lot of very deep, dark information is given. For example, the prophecy straight up removes Marcel from Wilfred's brain and banishes him to some strange, lone location, and that's Wilfred's best friend. And just like that, the prophecy banishes it. Triao's curse gets amplified as a warning, and nobody knows what's happening. Triao's eyes turn golden. The conductor gets name-dropped as Grimoire. For the first time ever, the party had been trying to find the conductor's name for years, and the prophecy just slips it out. And finally, the names Exodus and Genesis are brought up. And we learn that Exodus is Benny. Also, Sakara explodes. Yeah, the prophecy just kills Sakara. And they're gone. Just like that. And after the very tense dinner with the prophecy, we learn that Benny fucked Curse God. Anyways, let's go on to the Deus Ex Machina, a giant train that the prophecy says will escort the party to their next destination, where Shutu is going to be used for a horrible death machine, because her curse, when she uses magic, she drains the life of things around her. Turns out the prophecy is turning her into a death machine to kill all of the Feywilds. So the party get on to this giant Deus Ex Machina train, and are quickly assaulted by the Somnambulist, and the leader of the Guild of Ethelar won. And things are looking bad. In fact, Sharpay is about to take about 200 points of damage. She's paralyzed, and one is lowering down this large Sasumata onto her, when a sword pierces through the back of his chest. As a lizard folk shows up to the scene. Introducing Thrax, the lizard folk swashbuckler rogue. He, him, and of course, a pirate, Yarhar Fiddle-dee-tee. He is a short King Mama A, I believe the shortest in the party right now at 4'11", and he's the guy in Sea of Thieves who keeps throwing firebombs. He's played by Eggabooha, and has a curse of min-max. At midnight, one of his stats gets a +5 modifier, and another gets a -5 modifier. His goal is that he hates one, and he's trying to find his missing crew that one supposedly stole away. Alongside this, the party are assisted by a large warforged, who they come to learn is named Unknown, also known as Own. They are a warforged chronergy wizard, they them, and a magic missile enthusiast. They're a big robot, and they fight with a little tiny pen. Their player is Snorbo9, and their curse is unreliable visions. At midnight, they get 2 visions of the past or future. The visions can either be true or fake, and Owen doesn't know which is which. They're memoryless and maidenless, and their goal is to recover their lost memories by getting a fruit from the life tree. So, the party is assembled. We have Dryad Lily, Benny, Sharpay, who got turned into an Aarakocra at some point, Triao, Curse Beast Wilfred, Thrux, and Own, as they head off to take on the prophecy head on. It's a fearsome battle, and I won't say that it's a pretty one. Almost everyone goes down. Thrux, in his second session in the campaign, almost dies. In fact, everyone almost dies. At one point, all hope is lost because all of the party remain unconscious, rolling death saves. And Shutu is about to be unleashed as a weapon upon the world. Until Triao remembers that barbarians can erupt into a raging fury and come back to life, and Triao turns into a giant-ass dragon and bites the hell out of the prophecy and manages to kill it. Kill isn't the best word, because it shrinks down into a tinier eye, but it's dispatched. And the party all get up and they manage to beat the ever-living crap out of this thing. And there are some casualties in the process. Benny loses his wings, Shutu nearly dies, everyone nearly dies. But they win. And Triao overcomes their curse in this moment. And is curseless. For the first time in the series, a curse has been cured. And the party beats the prophecy. It's honestly one of the best episodes in the series, and I highly recommend watching it. And now, after being victorious, they return home. Wilfred's cured, and they can move on to their next objective. That being Wolvenshire! Oh yeah, we all know this one well. And, but before that, they quickly meet up with the Radiant Roses, who, this is the first time I'm going to be introducing them. But the Radiant Roses are a previous group of adventurers. It consists of a man named Lee Hostine, he's an Aasimar sorcerer, Veldrin Volar, who is, of course we know, the chronergy wizard Drow, Wilfred's parents, both Em and Greyld, Vulcan Charlemagne, who is a Goliath who turns into a goblin when you look at him, and Zior of the Radiant Roses, who actually was a weaponsmith earlier in the campaign. But they were an adventuring party previous to the party, and they worked on taking out a number of groups that were actually the underlings of Pantheon members, but they never actually encountered a Pantheon member besides Em, who actually fought the precipice at one point that they come to learn. I am going to change this music. It doesn't fit. And it is here that they are told some information by the Radiant Roses, that the third prophecy member, the third Pantheon member, was sealed away. They also say the G word, Genesis, to Veldrin. And he has a breakdown so bad that the Radiant Roses have to mass counterspell him. Veldrin also, thankfully, tells Benny, who had just lost their wings, that it'll be okay. They'll likely come back, but Benny needs to prove that they are worthy. For now, though, Benny is stuck with serious wild magic and corrupted Aasimar form. Well, they actually head on out and they cure Elian, who has a report of a newly excavated ruin in Wolvenshire. I will quickly note here, it is also said that Cornelius is gone missing at this point. Hugo tells them that. But the party have a new mission in mind now that the day has been saved in Feywilds. They're heading out to Wolvenshire, where they start at a place called Blackpool, which is a small little market town, where they meet back up with Triao's other boyfriend, Hazel, and the team is united. However, Wolvenshire sucks. It's awful. It's horrible here, actually. It's the worst country, objectively. There are no laws, and it is run by an asshole tiefling, the leader of the Guild of Ethelar, that fucker from the Feywilds, who rides a giant southern leech behir. For reference, the southern leech behir are a creature that we'll learn about in a second. But one is the dictator of Wolvenshire. Wolvenshire sucks once again. And yeah, Basically, he steals the prophecy's eye that they were trying to seal away. Doesn't really go too well. And they get into a big fight where this southern leech behir, which I will now officially explain, are a species of red behir that feed off of iron, aka blood, and can grow near infinitely. File that one away in your brain for later. But after the dust clears, they find themselves at this strange set of ruins. And they realize it's called the Temple of Genesis. Inside, there's a bunch of strange markings on the wall. I genuinely recommend going back to watch the full episode. It's so lore deep and intensive in its descriptions that I think it's best to watch for yourself. But there's a number of trials in there too. A swallowing pit of the precipice that shows it shows Thruck's visions of his missing crew, and it shows Wilfred and Marcel. And they swim down, almost drowning in the process, but they manage to get pulled up to safety. Next, they find this person, this Azamar, who looks thousands of years old. Her name is Charlie Abel. They question her, forcing her to life on this horrible machine and mechanism that is life support. They learn that she was the prophecy's patient as a kid. She thinks that she's about 8 years old, when in reality she's 800 and was forced asleep, put on a ventilator for the rest of her life. As a mercy, the party pulled the plug. Finally, they fight a Dracolich, who is apparently a creature made by the one who lies before our very eyes. And in the final room, they are forced to do surgery on a strange, bloated body, where they have to remove the face, the lungs, or the breath, the heart, and the eyes, which are apparently very important. It is at the end of the Temple of Genesis where, Genesis is there. He's Curse God. G equals Genesis. And holy shit, is that the amulet of that earlier design? Stuff is happening. Yeah, no, turns out that Genesis has been showing up inside of Owen's visions for a while as this blue Azamar, but now he's a strange, decrepit red tiefling. He was sealed away in the Temple of Genesis with no memories, and the only thing he can seem to do is mimic the people closest to him. He was once an Azamar, now a fallen tiefling. And now it's following the party, and no one likes this. In fact, everyone hates it, and they hate this guy, and it's horrible. And they don't know who to put next to him, because some people are a little bit too powerful to be next to Curse God. In the end, they shove him next to Elian, and it's a very uncomfortable show. Worst of all, Owen remembers them. Turns out, Owen was once Genesis's personal servant, and was created by Genesis. And they also learn that pieces of Genesis have been scattered. And we'll get to where one of those is in a second. I need a drink. But for now, it's time for bunking in your enemy's childhood home. That's right. The party crossed the desert to return home. For reference, the sand in Wolvenshire is red because the amount of blood is spilled in it. It's a very lawless and chaotic land. And they also learn, remember that whole thing about Genesis having pieces scattered? Yeah, Owen has a heart, a golden heart. It's some real cabinet man shit. And in a vision, they kind of learn that it's Genesis's. Yep, shit's bad. And unfortunately, things get worse because Sharpay gets paralyzed by a southern leech behir. Yeah, the babies can paralyze people with their bite. They feed on iron, and once again, under the right conditions, they can grow infinitely. They also find the sunken village, a place not depicted on maps, and inside it is a small house that has a mural that depicts a family, consisting of Mom, Audie, Raven, Voxith, and Ezekiel. And some revelations are made. Audie is Thrux's captain, Raven is Lily's uncle, Voxith is 1, and Ezekiel is 9. The family tree is starting to look really weird in this campaign. And the party decide, okay, this is a lot to take in. Let's just return to Blackpool. It's on fire. Oh god. And in the midst of the flames, they actually manage to find someone, a lone straggler and the only survivor of the flames. Marion Ducky Porter. This is the Water Genasi Aarakocra mutant blood hunter. Yep, and the creator of the finest of drugs. I'm fucking walking here. They have an accent and such, and they're looking for cleaning up the crime scenes, baby. And they are the true short king of Cursed Ones, and the biggest Cursed Ones fan. player is Cece, and their curse is crime scene. Every day they find a dead body and crime scene and must discern how the person died. This crime scene can sometimes be entirely hallucinatory, but sometimes it's not, and it is a prophetic curse. So, shit goes down. There's a lot of stuff to cover here. This is a huge slide. Pecan was stolen in the fire. Yeah, this 1-year-old kid, bad. And one gives the party a map showing where he'll strike next, which, doesn't seem like a good plan, but he's a cocky cock, and he's just willing to go all out. The party splits up, the worst thing a DM wants to hear. A few people go to Shark's Harbor. That is Thrux's own Wilfred, Ducky, and Elian. This is where Thrux learns that he has siblings that he had no clue existed. And some people go back to Spring Bay to look for Pecan, those being Lily, Triao, Benny, and Hazel. And they learn that a bunch of kids have been stolen. Bad. And surprise! Things are being attacked! Raven, Lily's blind uncle with death magic in an erupting volcano, comes and just rains hell on the place, with a bunch of skeletal ghost whales that manage to deafen Hazel. And Thrux's crew, the Ragged Reynards, consisting of Audie Alabaster, Witherways, Dante Acker, Digit, Vulcan Charlemagne, Aoife, Tempest, and Kyros all attack, and it's a bloodbath. Owen even has a vision where he's attacked by 3 other people. 2 people from Lily's past, that being Byron and Carrot, who are some of Lily's old friends, and this strange orc named Adrian. And here is a picture of Tempest, who I love dearly. And shit continues to go down. Yeah, things are just very chaotic in Wolvenshire. Vulcan eats shit and dies. Yeah, no, Mia Darnello, Thrux's mom, shoots him through the head and kills him in one shot. So that's one of the other Radiant Roses down. And Cooper also dies in a fire. Yeah, one of Thrux's siblings, one of 2. He gets put into a soul cage and is forced to live in there in constant burning agony. And his twin sister Chloe also almost dies, gets revived, and is kidnapped. Things are bad. Not to mention there's these fox spirits all over the place now, Wolvenshire's janitors. They're real ominous. They have these masks that seem to control them to clean up dead bodies. And Vulcan turns into one of them, leaving them unable to bury the body. And then the precipice is back! And the controlled crew members steal Thrux's sister again. It's very bad. The party nearly dies once again because it's the precipice, but thanks to a teleportation circle Elian made, they all managed to get back to shore, and the mind control that was over Raven, that was over Thrux's crew members, finally breaks, and they get a moment to breathe. Oh, great, Hazel's gone now. Yeah, sure, why not? Hazel's gone too. Great, no time to breathe, ever. And the party think that Hazel was stolen by Adrian Dever. They also think that she burned down Blackpool and did a whole bunch of bad shit. So they go to find her. But she did not. It was obviously one that did all of those things. But she is learned to be the leader of her own guild, which are fighting for the freedom of Wolvenshire. Also, yes, she is part of the Dever family. And she has the corpse of a fox spirit in her base, the Hellbrand's base. Turns out that corpse was of Lily's childhood friends, and stuff is getting really messed up. And now, there's no time for feelings because there's another X on the map, which means there is more combat happening and one has even more plans. So, they head to the next location, and Sharpay's evil now. Yeah, so, after getting paralyzed, she was sent back to the base and replaced with Ducky for a little while, but she returns and yep, she's evil. Bad. Uh-oh. Sharpay is being mind-controlled by one. Also, there's a big fucking phoenix. And Wilfred nearly dies. He actually, almost dies. He does drop under and fails his death saves, but with the power of the party working together to give all their inspiration points, he gets back up. Unfortunately, there are some drawbacks. For now, he only has 2 death saves before he dies. A nat 1, and he is dead for good. It's a bad situation. He's also kind of ghostly. He's starting to be more like Marcel every day. Thankfully, the party managed to smack some sense into Sharpay. It's a long and arduous fight, and it's chaos. And after that, they decide they have to go to Ifridi's Peak for Hazel and Pecan saving purposes. And this is where Von Pharaoh comes into the picture. Yes. Turns out volcanoes are hot. And Thrux nearly dies in lava 10 times. But in this giant volcano, they meet Honey Ashes, who is Sharpay's mom. She was wished into existence by one, which makes the family tree even weirder. And now it's wish time. The party meets Von Pharaoh, who is Sharpay's dad, their genie parent, who is a big, lumbering asshole who grants any wish the party wants. During this wish montage, Thrux loses an eye, Sharpay becomes immune to mind control, Thrux becomes a warlock, Ducky canonically changes one's name to Bitch Ass. This also turns Voxen's name into Biken. Also, the Alabasters now have the last name Ass. Monkey's Paw is a bitch. And Wilfred wishes for their freedom, letting them escape the tunnels. One is here, just run. The entire place starts to blow up as one does something to incapacitate Von Pharaoh, and the party have to run for their lives out of the volcano just to escape one. And then one shoots, Thrux shoots one in the head. Just point blank. Now it's time for the Red Sky Apocalypse. So, after shooting one, the party tried to interrogate him, but they learned that one ate the prophecy's little eye. I also forgot to mention, he is a big cannibal. Bit of a problem. Ha, nerds. Anyway, a golden eye opens in the sky, and this red smoke starts breaking out and turns people into zombie-like husks. They start playing games like Ring Around the Rosie, and they call Thrux Leopold. Wait a second. Huh. We'll get back to that. And Mother Nature herself gives the party an advanced gas mask, thankfully. Turns out, Mother Nature is one's mom, and also Varilla, who is Lily's god. The family tree gets weirder, especially because Triao is now a druid following Mother Nature. Oh shit, Chloe. Yeah, remember that Leopold thing I just told you all to remember? Chloe, the tiny little lizard folk child and Thrux's little sister, is the only other person who calls Thrux Leopold. So, the party get the shit out of Dodge and bunk with some of the survivors of this new apocalypse, that being Adrian Dever, Thrux's parents, this guy named Sokayai, Dimitri, and Audie Alabaster. But in a vision, Owen learns that Elian is in danger and is choking to death in a bunker. So, it's time for 2. Jump scare. So there is this disgusting cat lady that they find at the Hellbrand's base, which is where Elian is currently being holed up. She's horrible. I hate her. I think everyone in the campaign hates her. She might be the most hated character in the whole series. She is an obsessed cat lady who loves one, and her nose is always bleeding, and she looks like a horrible mix of Yzma and just a diseased, broken, disgusting little Sphinx cat. The party managed to rescue Elian and some other scientists who are bunkered up, and they give them some masks. But 2 quickly spots them despite the party trying to stealth past her, and combat breaks out. And she has a ton of fun attacks. She has exploding babies that she pulls out of her stomach. It's gross. She has the ability to mold your flesh. She turns Thrux into a mirror image of herself. And she can boil your skin to death. And, I mean, the best one of all, she can kill Wilfred. Yeah. So Wilfred's dead. He rolled in that one. Welp, you know what? It's fine. It's fine. Because now there's a Colossus attacking. Yeah, there's no time to mourn. Do you remember the Southern Leech Behir I talked about? You know, the one that can grow infinitely under the right circumstances? Yeah, a Colossus Leech Behir is going to the safe house of all the survivors, so there's no time to do with emotions and stuff like that and Wilfred being dead for good, you know? And hey, the Emerald Dragon from Sunder, it comes to help out, so things are looking up in the world. And, you know, it's looking up even more because as alongside all of these allies coming to help, there's also this other figure that appears to help save the party from the Colossus. Oh yeah, it's time for Ryder Fairwhistle. He's a satyr gunslinger fighter, him, and is basically if Sora had key guns instead of key blades. He's an Outlands bounty hunter. Ride or Die was going to be his team name, but it got copyrighted as the Outlands Rescue Corp. He is played by Cole, so by Wilfred, and we don't actually know if he has a curse yet. Hey, what's up with that big ol' eye on your hip there, buddy? That looks like a Pantheon eye. Unfortunately, Ryder cannot hear you because he's blind. And he was sent by Veldrin to aid the party in getting out of Wolvenshire because apparently he was the only one who could cross this new barrier, this magic bubble that was put around Wolvenshire. So, we're gonna take a quick detour and quickly say, hey, what's this big pit? Because the party stumble upon a massive pit after one rains on their plane ride to Von Pharaoh's Ark. It kind of looks like muscles rubbed on the wall, which is gross. And in the pit, there are 4 little tablet formations. There's a large rainbow gate reading to confine you to the depths of hell. There's a symbol of the mind that reads to make sure you are forgotten. A clock with a prison cage around it to make sure you suffer for every moment of your remaining life. And a spell with squares and spirals and chains and jade cages, orbs, diamond herbs that says to never come back. And real quick, this is a picture of Chekhov's gun, not Ryder's. Just in case you were wondering. So, Kasim and Varilla. The party bunk at Lily's burnt-down monastery, which is where Elian breaks the news that Ryder doesn't have a magical signature, which is very strange, but that glowing yellow eye sure does. And it is at the monastery that Lily's backstory, part 1, is revealed. Lily lived in a monastery that worshipped Varilla, the goddess of nature with the symbol of foxes. When Lily was young, her monastery was burnt down by a group of orcs, which she learned now was the Hellbrands and Adrian. Her dad, Kasim, was killed and taken away by fox spirits. And they learn in a vision that Mother Nature is in danger. The fox spirits are led by Kasim, who poisons Mother Nature to make sure she becomes mortal so that he can kill her. Yeah, it's time for Lily backstory reveal part 2. Kasim, under the order of Genesis, was sent to find a host for Genesis's detached eyes, since the monastery was to be where a special selected elf child drifted off to at sea. Kasim tried it on a bunch of kids, but almost all of them died. But then, Kasim removed Lily's eyes and put Genesis's in, and it worked. Raven realized what was happening and left the monastery and abandoned Lily. Kasim faked his death, started the fox spirits, and planned to let Genesis's eyes incubate in Lily's tortured life. Kasim is now working in an uneasy alliance with One, but plans to completely ignore his leadership, and is instead trying to summon Genesis, which means taking Mother Nature out of the picture, for some reason. Lily rejects this, because what the fuck, Dad? And then Kasim rejects Lily's eyes. Hey, what the fuck? Huh? Yeah, no, he literally rips out Lily's eyes, right in front of everyone. And Lily goes completely blind. In response, Thrux rejects Kasim's life and shoots him in the head dead. So, bye. And that is going to bring us to the end of Cursed Ones 301. And that was definitely a long one. So we are back, to everything. And we're back to the open Q&A section. I see that Snorp, you had to leave. So, bye. And I have a few questions specifically surrounding this arc, and in particular within the server that people were asking questions in. So I'll be answering those, but per usual, the chat is open to any questions anyone wants to ask right now. So, the first question on here, does Genesis does what Nintendo don't from Snorp09? Yes. Are there countrywide governments? If so, how are they structured? That is also from Snorp. Countrywide governments. Wolfenshire was a dictatorship run under One. That has changed as of now in the campaign. Eros is run by a government that has 2 parties. It is a Democratic and Republican party. It's kind of like America in a way. Currently, Democrats are winning in the election, and basically it is working on a reform to the Lizardfolk and Aarakocra War, and those people are living up inside of Norfolk. So that's what's happening there. Yashendale is run by a committee of different members of different races and places inside Yashendale, and there are a few leaders in there. No, enough of America. But Yashendale is run by a committee that looks over the different cities, and there are representatives of each cities, and those representatives all have a council of district officers that take care of their regions. Asimir is just kind of an anarchy, but everyone works in tandem with each other. So there's no real conflict, but there's also no real leaders. Sunder is run by different kingdoms. So those are kind of the governments and those political systems. I think there's a fly in my room, which is bothering me, but that's fine. All right, and from there, what are some other good questions on here? What are some constellations above Ethos? That is also from Snorp09. There are constellations of every single one of the letter gods that were mentioned before. They all have their own constellations. I would draw them out, but I don't currently have the means to. Alongside that, there was one of an owl. There is an eye constellation in the sky that you can see during blood moon nights only. And alongside that, there's a fair few other constellations, which are just of, like, the minor gods. Basically, every single god in Cursed Ones has their own constellation in the stars. Varilla has one, Beck has one somewhere out there. Every god gets a constellation somewhere. The smaller the like god's power, the smaller their constellation, but once you reach the point of godhood, you get a constellation. Veldrin has one. From there, another question. Who is Veldrin? Like, really? This is from Eggabooha, and that's a great follow-up to what I previously just said. Veldrin Volar was the first elf ever. And there's a bit more to that story than I can currently tell, but according to himself, he's the first elf that ever existed. Alongside that, he was one of the first people in the world to tap into the magic potential of ethos. Therefore, he was the first person to look into chronergy magic, and basically from there became a time-traveling Time Lord who is just entirely off the shits. Eventually, his magic got corrupted in a fight with Curse God, and that's why he is a drow now. But other than that, he is pretty much just a loose cannon who has seen a lot of stuff. He's traumatized. He's a scientist. He's trying to learn more, but he's at the point in his career where he's such a nervous wreck, really, and he doesn't try and let that show. But he's such a nervous wreck that he can't solve the world's problems on his own, even if, like, power-wise, he likely could, and could be considered on the level of some of the lesser gods of the world. Running with what we saw in the Wolvenshire arc with their relations, was there once a time when one was at least not the most hateable person? Yes, absolutely. That's a question from Egg. One actually used to be just a normal kid. I think I've said this before, but to get into the backstory of one, when he was a kid, his mom, Varilla, was a fortune teller. Varilla is Mother Nature now, but basically, Genesis went to Varilla to get his fortune told on if his plan for curses would succeed. She told him, no, you would be overthrown. And because he didn't like the answer, he attacked her and the family. This is how Raven lost his eyes. This is how a lot of stuff happened, and this is the incident where the first curse in the world was given out, and that was to One. One had the first curse. His curse is that he is infinitely hungry for both power and food. And before this, though, One was a relatively normal kid. Not really. He's normal in the sense that you would say that a serial killer as a kid would have been normal, as in he was well-mannered, but would have killed animals and such like that. So he never really had the empathy that other people did. He was always kind of like just like a narcissist and manipulator. I'm not really sure like the science behind those types of things, but you know, it's even beyond just like a label like sociopath, because not all sociopaths are murderers. He just genuinely, from birth, it's kind of in a Michael Myers way, he was destined for this. He wasn't corrupted. He was edged on by the curse, I'll say. But people thought he was well-mannered. So there's that. There is likely a world somewhere in which One was never cursed, and instead of becoming a big dictator, he'd become like, I guess like let's just say that he'd probably become either a hitman, just to like get out his fantasy of it. He'd be a normal serial killer who would have been caught, or he would have been a businessman that killed people like who talk too much. He would have been one of those types. But I don't in which he gets like completely, I don't know, non-villainized. He was basically just kind of destined for this type of life. One would be on the dark web. He would be red rooming. All right. Let's read some more questions here. Taking account everything we currently know, could Lily get new working eyes via powerful magic or something? Please God. Oh God, please not only the fucking wish spell. Good question, Egg. So, I think that Lily could. There is a spell called Regeneration that would grow it back. I am personally not of the fan of just like, stapling over people's disabilities like that. That's like my own design philosophy in D&D. So if people lose a limb, they're gonna get a prosthetic. Trio has a prosthetic, they have a tree limb. That's as far as I go. Lily will never get her sight back fully, as will Ryder. Ryder likely won't get his sight back. The most I would go, for example, hearing aids are being developed in Ethos. And also some visual aids are being developed. This is a fantasy world, and in the real world, we are actually working on ways to help with like blindness and such. Not being fully blind, but at least legally blindness. There are ways to aid in that. So if Lily did regenerate eyes back, they would likely still be legally blind. At that point, they would have lost most like ability and such to see. And even at that point, her brain would not be hardwired at that point to visually see. It's the same with Ryder. If Ryder body swapped with someone, it's likely that he would be too overwhelmed because his brain isn't ready to mentally process these things because he hasn't relied on his sight for his whole life. So for getting eyes back, she could grow them back. Absolutely. Would they work the same? Not without aids. Not without aids. So that's my stance there. That's like how I rule these types of things. So regeneration spell, okay, but I don't think I would make it functioning. The limb can grow back. If it's like freshly severed, I would say it works perfectly. But the way I tool it is that like, I don't know. I'm not down the route of like Finn Adventure Time, just growing it back with a bee like shitting on his arm. Question from Egg in chat. Let me throw a few questions in here. What was Chloe and Cooper's childhoods like? Like, did they hear of Thrux? Where was Chloe and Cooper? Okay, so their childhoods were good. Absolutely good. And Thrux was kind of like, Thrux was never mentioned to them. Never really mentioned. It's the type of thing where they'd turn around all the childhood photos, put them all in the attic. Thrux's room was actually left the same. And they would go in there. But Chloe and Cooper never really questioned why there was another room in the house that they weren't really allowed into. They did manage to sneak in. They stole and played with his toys a lot. But mostly they just went to school. Normal childhood like that. The only thing is that Chloe is incredibly, incredibly creative. And she did have a run-in once with one. That might have to be elaborated on in the series canon, though, if you ask her. But no, Mia and Doug never talked about Thrux, unfortunately. Where was Own found? Eros. And where would they be found? Where they found okay, sorry, I read it wrong. Were they found by people prior to their awakening? Yes, actually. I'd say that people did find them. But just never, I'd say that the way that Own was found would have been rolled up into a ball and just stashed away and, oh no, you're good, and would have been stashed away in a manner in which you would think that it would just be a strange building or art project in the ground. So people would have come across it. I actually have the headcanon that a couple of birds used it for a nest, or people would play on it and such and use it as a little slide. But because Own was turned around, they never got to excavating him. They were buried and such in the ground a little bit. It was almost like a grave, but they were sticking out a bit. It was only when they had to excavate them to start building a new house that they fully uncovered Own and Eros. But that's that question. Are there any other good questions here? Not that there's any bad questions for reference. I'll answer that one in the next one. Oh, there's some ones from Cece that I haven't read yet. Favorite curses in terms of funniest, most fun to roleplay, most enjoyable plot device, any criteria like that. Ooh. I think Wilfred's has always been a fun curse to roleplay, honestly. As for thinking of other things, I really got no clue, honestly. So I can't really think of any right now. And I will answer all the rest of the questions next time on Cursed Ones 401, which we are going to start in just a moment here. But thank you for tuning in. Next episode, Cursed Ones 401, should be out in a few days for those watching on YouTube. For those on Twitch, we'll be right back. And thanks for watching.